Pleasure to get you back to
Nice.
Australia. It's taken a long, long time, and we're finally going to
Yeah,
get you.
over 40, I don't know, some odd years. I remember playing there with the guitar trio. It had to have been 81, I think, in 1981. So that's quite a long time ago, you know.
Yeah. So you come back to Australia. I mean, how do you then put the set list together? It's is it made up of here's what you missed in the last 40 years, folks?
Totally, because I'm not playing electric this time. Well, I didn't play electric the last time either, so I'm coming back with more of a mid-period and more recent set list, because my early years it was a high volume electric, kind of thing, Elegant Gypsy Casino, and I know those were popular records, but I would have to revamp my whole music group to do that, So what I've been doing is I've been doing a combination of new compositions that will come out on a new record that I think are important, because I've been delving more into composition, and that's where my focus has been over the years. So I'm evolving in a pretty good direction, I would say. And I'm really happy with what I came up with recently, especially with the 2.5 years off because of COVID. So there'll be a lot of that, but there'll be also pieces from the past, some past albums, because I have 35 albums now. So there's a big choice of repertoire. And then I feature something from the Piazzolla, long list of beautiful pieces, and also some Lennon and McCartney. So it's kind of a combo there of those three composers.
Yeah, the Lennon McCartney stuff. You've done some amazing things. Firstly, with the more recent Across the Universe album, there was the Your Life album a couple of years ago. How did you curate the songs that you chose to reimagine, reinvent? Beatles songs as Elvis Costello.
I imagine. Well, first of all, when you analyze a lot of the Beatles songs, a lot of them are made up of beautiful harmonic changes, and of course the melodies are amazing. So I've grown up with the Beatles in the '60s, and I still love them today. So I had that. The first tribute record that I had done at Abbey Road, which is now about 10 years old, 10 or 11, 12 years old, something like that, started the whole thing. And I did an acoustic rendition without a lot of overdubs. And because a lot of the songs that the Beatles put out were very short in terms of length, when you don't have lyrics and voices involved, the need to extend the composition, let's say, is very much something I had to do. I had to add to it. Like, what would they do if they had to make an instrumental out of some of these great tunes? So I took pieces like Norwegian Wood and I Am the Walrus and Strawberry Fields Forever, and I added my own sections to it. Of course, when you do that, you don't get any writer's credit, and I wasn't looking for any, not at all. But there was a lot of additional music put in there, to give it kind of like a Meola stamp,
Yeah, well, Penny Lane, your version of Penny Lane is about almost double the length of the Beatles' original 3 minutes.
Yeah, and by the way, I look. The Beatles versions are phenomenal, but I don't sing, and I have to tell the story with notes, and so this, I had to do something that respects the aesthetic of that music, because I find the Beatles music to be aesthetically beautiful, and I wanted to respect that, but at the same time, I wanted to put my stamp in there and not delve too far from the melody, or if I did, I have to return to that melody, because that's what they're all about,
Well, I think probably a good example of that is Your Mother Should Know. That's it's so subtle. I was about 90 seconds in before I went, hang on a sec, because I wasn't actually looking at the titles. I was listening to the music and trying to identify from that. And Your Mother Should Know actually took me some time to actually identify.
Right. Well, when you analyze the chords or the harmonic chord progression, it's a lot to work with. So, and adding my kind of like style or, stamp to it is, involves a lot of arpeggiating the chords with a rhythmic twist, which is very different than the Beatles approach, which, a lot of Paul's songs in particular, I mean, almost all, but a lot of them, he's playing, if he's playing piano, where he wrote the song Penny Lane or Your Mother Should Know, if you notice, he's playing quarter notes. But the piano's doing this the whole time. Same with Let It Be and all those other songs. And it's beautiful. And never do you really like listen to it and analyze it. But if you had to, that's how they have all of that room to do that beautiful production that they do, because it's very simplistic rhythmically. But I don't come from the simple side of rhythm, so I do my own thing with the rhythm, and respect the aesthetic of the songs the way they were too. Like Your Mother Should Know is one of my favorite pieces as well. I love the original version. And I just hope that people can dig my version as well.
The other fantastic piece of music that we've had the pleasure of hearing just recently, Saturday Night in San Francisco. Has that like been sitting around in a vault for all these years?
Yeah, it was in my studio. I mean, I have a vault room next to my studio with tons of tape. And what happened was, that first tour we did in 1980 with John McLaughlin, we started in Scandinavia, went down through Europe, and we recorded a lot of the German shows and Belgium, and I think also in Paris. So we had 10 tons of tape, and then we recorded the West Coast shows, the LA and San Francisco. I remember San Francisco wound up being the last 2 shows of a 2-month tour. So you can imagine, in those days, in that age category and all, our chops were like crazy, crazy good, because, it's if it were this period of time, I think we would have even less, because, we spent so much of our time looking at a cell phone or on a computer. We didn't have them back then. So we spent all of our time practicing in our rooms, getting ready for that night, whatever hotel room we were in, because we knew we were going up against, the best of what you guys was going to give,
Yeah. And the technology you've got now, going back and listening to those tapes, how much of it was filtered through new technology, so that, we're hearing a very different sounding Saturday Night to what we originally heard on the early vinyl version of the Friday Night album in 1981.
Well, it's different songs, but it's the same theater.
Oh, yeah.
Same, it's just different songs. It's on Friday night, we played those songs as well. We just couldn't fit them all on Friday night records. So Friday night we had to pick, a certain amount of songs to meet the side requirement, So these are the other songs that never made it to Friday night, and we just went to the Saturday night tapes and we found those other songs. And we did a lot. And we preserved the tapes. Yeah, we had to bake the tapes to preserve the sound, and then we sent it to Skywalker Studios, and they, to do another layer of preservation. And I did a lot of editing to make the vinyl sides work for both the 33 speed and the 45.
Because that original Friday Night had a track, Guardian Angel, but that wasn't from San Francisco, was it? That was a New York.
No. Because I don't think we were. I'm not sure why. I know the final reason why was when we got to the studio, we just didn't have it or something, or I'm not sure if we played it on tour. I'm really not sure. But the fact that John didn't have a song on the record, I had two. Paco didn't even have one. I think he had part of one, and I had, more of, and Chick had one, of course. We did Chick's Short Tales of the Black Forest, and we did, and then Paco and John did Egberto Gismonti's Frevo Rascado. So I think John wanted to have a song on there. So we recorded it in the studio at the same time. We were at the same place we were mixing the record in White Plains, New York.
Now, we lost Paco in 2014, which was, very sad. Are you in contact with John McLaughlin much these days?
I was, especially for this record, the Saturday Night record. And so I called him, also out of concern of, what's going on with the world, with the COVID and all. It was a moment of terror, in the world. So I called him to see how he's doing, and then also kind of remind him that we had another night in San Francisco, which he didn't know. He forgot about it. He didn't know that those tapes existed, or that we had even played a second night. But we did. I had the tapes. I kind of knew about them for a long time, but I think when I approached him and Paco a long time ago, they were just so busy and they couldn't really put their attention on it. So I had transferred the tapes just for preservation's sake to a DAT tape, and then could not find them anywhere, but I still had the big reels. So then I since I couldn't find them, I said, well, then I better, get these over to Pro Tools really quick. And so I had the tapes rebaked and then sent over to Pro Tools, and the quality was fantastic, actually. So I was lucky after that many decades that, this tape stayed intact,
Yeah. As a trio, there were two other albums, Passion, Grace and Fire in 1983 and the Guitar Trio 1996. Were they the only times the three of you ever came together?
Well, we did. I think we did a reunion tour in '95. I seem to remember. Was it '95 or 2005? One of the 05. 05? No, it must have been '95. Yeah. Yeah, that was the last time.
That would have been around the time of the Guitar Trio album then.
Yes. In fact, that's true. I think so. Yeah. Well, definitely, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. There was also that other collaboration you did, The Rite of Strings, Jean-Luc Ponty and Stanley Clarke.
Yeah.
I guess that reunited you with Stanley. Was that the first reunion since you were in Return to Forever together?
No, well, Return to Forever we did a reunion tour in '83. So that there was something between '76 when we ended. 1976, we disbanded, and then '83 we did a short month or two tour of the States and Japan. Hey, look, we lost Chick. Chick was a tremendous influence. I loved Chick. He wasn't the smartest businessman in terms of him even recognizing he had what the public, with our fans, considered to be a supergroup, and we should have done more. We should have. Chick kind of like spread himself way too thin. Chick really liked to play with everyone. So one day he was doing a duet with a banjo player. The next he had a trio with Roy Haynes, and then he was doing something. He was constantly, involving himself with different projects without keeping like the nucleus of RTF, which was really his original plan, keeping the nucleus of that group intact. That's what he should have done, because, you know, Romantic Warrior was a smash album, and we should have had 5 more records that followed that, even if they were 5 years apart. That would have been fine. He could have done all those other side projects as well. So I think, you know, I always felt that it was a shame, you know, the way he thought. But then, you know, there's nothing I could do about it.
Mm.
I made my case clear with him, but, you know, he couldn't change his mind, you know.
But he was so young then. You were so young. You were 9 years old when you joined that band.
I was the real young guy in comparison, and who was the most vocal about stuff like that. So I'm sure in their minds they were like, who the hell is this young punk trying to tell us what to do? You know, I'm sure there was a bit of that. But if you got Stanley and Lenny together, I'm sure they would, you know, agree that it's a damn shame we didn't have at least 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 even follow-ups to that record, because man, we were like we were just at the crossing over into playing arenas, you know, and we had a multi-million-dollar deal with CBS Records. We did. And he just cashed it all in and went a different direction, you know.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, it wasn't the worst, because it started my career. You know, I put out Elegant Gypsy, and that was like my biggest record. I have 35 records. Still, my second record was my biggest record. You know.
I know, but being a 19-year-old, you're in a band, Return to Forever. Chick Corea's in the band, Stanley Clarke's in the band, Aldo Meola. We look back at that now, and you know, I just shake my head and go, "Wow, how did that even happen?"
Well, it happened like I know how it happened with me. I mean, I was a fan of Return to Forever as far back as when they were a Brazilian jazz band, you know, and they had Joe Farrell and Ayrton Moreira and Stanley on upright. I loved the music. I thought Chick was one of my favorite, if not my favorite player and writer, you know. So when he went electric, it was like, oh wow, this is really cool. It was the beginning of jazz rock, you know, with Ma Vishnu and Weather Report. And so it was an exciting time, you know. So I was going to Berklee School of Music in Boston, and I had seen the band play 2 or 3 times. Only on the last time I saw them play while I was at school, they were playing at the Orpheum Theater, and they had on guitar Earl Klug. Now, everyone knows Earl Klug. Anyone that knows him knows he was a wonderful acoustic player, but not an electric player by any means. And he was standing there playing a Les Paul through a Marshall, and I said, this can't be, you know. And I remember I called home to New Jersey, a friend of mine who was really like my big brother. And, you know, I just talked to my friend Michael, and I said, Michael, man, I just saw Return to Forever, and they got Earl Klug playing guitar. God, I would give anything to play with that band. That's all I said. So Michael, being just picture like this Woodstock hippie, always high as a kite. And he was also an amateur recording engineer. He had one of those big TAC machines, a 4-channel TAC machine. And he recorded me on a New Year's Eve when I was 17 years old, playing a gig. So he liked to follow me around and record me. So he had this tape of me on New Year's Eve after he gave me a tab of acid. And I was on a psychedelic trip that was so phenomenal. And he recorded that night. He took that tape and went into New York City, found Chick, he found the management, and bothered the hell out of them to listen to this tape, because I said to him, I would love to play with that band. And he was so confident of this performance, you know, which, by the way, it was like, when I heard that tape, I could not believe what I was hearing. It was like me at my best, and beyond. I don't know where I came up with those lines, but when you're tripping like that, other things do happen, right? So I got a call from Chick, and Chick goes to me. He goes, first he goes, hello, is this Al Meola? And I go, yes. And I go, who's this? He goes, oh, it's Chick Corea. I said, yeah, come on. It's not Chick Corea. And he goes, no, this is Chick Corea. Your friend Mike gave me a tape, and we love what we heard, man. We'd love for you to join the band, just like that. And I'm sitting in my apartment up at Berklee School of Music, and I'm going, oh my God, wow. I said, well, which tape did you hear? And he goes, well, I heard some tape of you on New Year's Eve with Barry Miles Quartet. And I go, oh my God. I didn't want to tell Chick that I was like tripping, you know. So I went home. So he tells me, we're going to have 3 days rehearsal in New York City. And on Tuesday night, we're playing Carnegie Hall, sold out. I said, what? Oh my God. So I went all the way home to New Jersey and knocked on the door. My mother comes to the door. She always locked the door. And I said, Mom, I'm home. She goes, what are you doing home from school? I said, Mom, I'm playing Carnegie Hall Tuesday night. What? And my father's in the background, and I'll never forget him going, get out of here. You're not playing Carnegie. Stop it now. I said, Dad, I'm playing Carnegie Hall. Come on, stop it. With who? What do you mean? What? I said, I'm playing with Chick Corea. He goes, who's Chuck Corea? I said, Dad, I'm playing with Chick Corea. Return to Verona, my favorite band. They just couldn't really grasp it. It was too much. I had just gone to Berklee. How does that happen so fast? So they sent the limo to the house on Tuesday, did my 3 days of rehearsal, 2 or 3, I don't remember if it's 2 or 3. And my parents come with me. And they're in the back of the limo facing me, like you're facing me now. My father's looking at me going, you know, I always told you, Albert, he always called me Albert, the way you get to Carnegie Hall is practice, practice, practice. And I'm thinking in my head, acid, acid, acid. So that was the beginning when I was 19, you know, and it was an amazing experience.
Thank you so much.
Okay, bud. Use the right handle.
Okay.
So that took us on a tour of all of July, most of the month of July in 1974, playing theaters, clubs, and also a series of stadiums that were part of the Newport Jazz Festival. That's a very big name festival still. And they held Newport Jazz Festivals in the 70s in other cities, not just in Newport, Rhode Island. So I found myself playing on stage on like second base of all of these big stadiums, and you know, of course, of a lot of other acts on the bill. But it was just an amazing beginning that I'm really happy to talk about with the audience every night.
It's a remarkable story. I hope you have plenty of those stories on stage when you get to Australia.
Yeah, I have that. I have a great Beatles story that I tell, and I have a great Paco story that I tell, and I usually tell this one too. And you know, it's become routine now that I tell these stories. So you know, I don't know how long I can get away with the same stories. But I've never told them before. But they're actually, you know, once I tell them, it's like, wow, I should have done this years ago. But yeah, it's okay to say I was tripping because I only did it once.
And the audience loves context.
Yeah, and you know, and I got hired on that tape because of that tape. I was tripping.
Yeah.
Chick never knew that. I didn't want to tell him. You know, he was a Scientologist. He didn't like that. He wouldn't have liked
it. Well, look forward to see you back in Australia for the first time in 41 years or 42 years, whatever it was.
Yeah, that's it is.
Yeah, we have a very different Australia for you these days. So I hope you enjoy it and enjoy the Italian restaurants in Lygon Street in Melbourne when you get here.
All right. Yeah, you got any recommends?
All of them. Just up and down Lygon Street. Yeah.
What's the street?
Lygon. Lygon.
Lygon.
Lygon Street.
Lygon Street. Okay, I'll remember that.
When you get to Melbourne, just say, where are the Italian restaurants? And they'll just automatically send you to Lygon Street.
All right, bud. Good.